On a quiet street in the small town of Maplewood, there lived a curious cat named Whiskers. With fur as white as snow and eyes as green as emeralds, Whiskers was known to everyone in the neighborhood. He had a knack for getting into places he wasn't supposed to be, but his adventures always brought smiles to the faces of those he encountered. Whiskers belonged to an elderly woman named Mrs. Thompson who had lived in the same quaint cottage for over 50 years. Mrs. Thompson adored Whiskers and the two were inseparable. Every morning, they would sit together on the porch, Mrs. Thompson sipping tea while Whiskers explored the front yard chasing butterfly and pouncing on fallen leaves. One sunny afternoon, as Mrs. Thompson tended to her garden, Whiskers noticed something unusual across the street. In the yard of a house that had been vacant for years, a moving truck was parked and family was bustling about unloading boxes. Intrigued, Whiskers tried over to investigate. The new family consisted of Mr. and Mrs. Miller and the 8-year-old daughter Lily. Lily had always wanted a pet, but her parents had never allowed it. As the family settled in, Whiskers made his way through their open front door, his curiosity piqued by the unfamiliar scents. Lee was in her room, unpacking a box of toys, when she heard soft meow. She turned around to see Whiskers sitting in her doorway, his head titled one side. Her eyes lit up with joy. "A cat," she explained, running over to kneel beside him. Whiskers purred loudly as Lily scratched behind his ears. From that day on, Whiskers became a frequent visitor at the Miller household. Lily would often sit on the porch steps waiting for her furry friend to appear. She even set up a little bed for him in her room, complete with a blanket and a few of her old toys. Mr. Thompson didn't mind sharing Whiskers. In fact, she was glad that her beloved cat could bring so much happiness to the young girl. She often waved at Lily from across the street, smiling as they watched Whiskers and Lily play together. One autumn evening, a terrible storm swept through Maplewood. The wind howled and rain lashed against the windows. Mrs. Thompson called for Whiskers, but there was no sign of him. She worriedly pulled on her raincoat and stepped outside, hoping to find him. Across the street, Lily was also worried about Whiskers. She had been playing with him earlier in the day, but he had darted off just before the storm hit. As the thunder rode her, Lily clutched her stuffed rabbit tightly, praying that her furry friend was safe. Suddenly, there was a frantic scratching at the Miller's front door. Lily rushed to open it and found Whiskers choked to the bone and shivering. She scooped him up in her arms and wrapped him in a warm towel. "You found him," Mrs. Miller exclaimed, as she hugged her daughter and the cat. The next morning, the storm had passed, leaving the town soaked but serene. Mr. Thompson was overjoyed to see Whiskers safe and sound, sitting in Lily's lap on their brock. She walked over to thank the Millers for taking care of him. From that day on, the bond between the two households grew stronger. Whiskers continued his adventures, but now he had two homes filled with love and warmth, and in the heart of Maplewood, the curious cat became a symbol of friendship and the simple joy of having a pet to share life's movements with. For more videos, like, share, subscribe.